and I told him to wait. It's regarding the birth certificate, so we're going to cover this real fast because I've been talking about it right before we took a break. Okay? So for the benefit of the people online and everybody, ask the questions. It's on. I did it.
Are you sure it's on? Is it working?
You got to hold it right here.
Right here. And I'm right here.
Hold on, let's do it again.
Oh, he dropped it. Okay, so my question was about the birth certificate, and some of you, if you've been following this, right here.
Yeah, you got to
Right here.
eat those mics.
So my question was about the birth certificate, because the group I listen to a lot, they're talking about getting it triple authenticated. So it's an easy enough thing to do, and it doesn't tie into other things. I sent the paperwork off. It took about 2.5 months to get it back because I had to send it to the state of Florida first. And at first, you get your copy through Vital Check or something in your county. It's stamped and sealed. It's got a raised seal. It's authenticated. I sent it to the state of Florida, and they put their piece of paper on there saying, absolutely, it is real. And then they stapled it. You never separate it. And I did 2 of them. I probably should have done 4 because it's $20 a piece, a one-shot deal. I sent it to Anthony Blinken, and I had it add his piece of paper saying it is authenticated. When he did it, they put a rivet in the corner, which tied all 3 pieces of paper together now.
Now, you didn't send it to Anthony. You sent it to the Department of Authentications of the State Department. Right?
Yes, but Anthony signed it.
Yes, he does.
There's paperwork online. You go online, you search with the state Secretary of State for the form, fill the form out, tell them what non-Hague country you're going to, because I'm in a hobby business, and Taiwan seemed to be a really good place for me to go, so I had it authenticated for Taiwan. So now I have it back. I have to I put it in a plastic sleeve to protect it, which I don't mind showing it to people if you want to come by and check it out. But my question really was, this is now a superior title. Am I right about that?
All right, go sit down. I'm going to hand this back to you in a minute because I want to show you guys what I'm holding in my hand. I want to teach you something right here that few know. I don't teach this stuff until someone's ready to go claim their trust. Then I usually call them into my office. I spend 20 to 30 hours with them, teaching them what to go do and how to do it. Because this man doesn't know what he holds in his hand right here at all. So I want you to imagine right now you've got a whole stack of $100 bills on that table. And you start stuffing them into your belt all the way around, into your pockets until they're just hanging out. And you walk down the streets of New York City. Or Chicago. Or pick one, Baltimore. Walk down the street with all that cash just hanging out of every pocket. You got it in your socks, your boots, everywhere. There's so much cash on the man, it's unbelievable how much. Do you think you can expect to not be pushed into a dark alley and robbed by pirates? Can you answer that? Doesn't matter. This is a metaphor of what you have. He is walking around with this. This is got citations right down here. I want you to look up the citations. I want you to look up the definitions. I want you to understand what this is. This is a incontestable, full faith and credit of the United States government Guaranteed $100 million bond. Now, when you look at the guarantee and look that up under these citations, the guarantee says 100 million minimum. You know why? Because that's what it was worth the day you were born. You know how much interest is accumulated? Do you know how many times they've traded it, hypothecated it? At your age, if you're not worth a minimum of $1 billion, I'll be surprised. So you're carrying around $100 billion in cash money under the full faith and credit of the United States government in your briefcase. Okay. Did that make an impression, saying it that way? Yeah. Yeah. If you could move a court into equity, which is into the private, in chamber, in camera, it's not in the public anymore. You have to use the right words. You have to use questions, not statements. And you have to move the court into the private. You will never say words like, for the record, because it ain't. You will never say words like, on the record, in the public, anything. Those words never come out of your vocabulary. If you do, you've lost. You have to use the exact wording when you're in equity. And you have to move the court into equity to use the bond. This is your trust document. This is what repairs the man's foot. This is what does everything from that point on. Because for him, it's probably $1 billion. I'm guessing because I haven't looked it up. But that's pretty close. You're a monkey wrench? Okay. You're right. But you don't know who the United States of America government is. It's you. Are you? It's you. It ain't them. You're the beneficiary. Doesn't matter. It's held in trust. It's held in trust above the United States. The United States only has money in their account because royal families created a trust, put their gold and silver in the trust, and opened the account with it, guaranteeing all of this by hundreds of trillions in gold and silver. These guys are just the co-trustees. That's it. You are the co-trustee, the co-beneficiary, and the only signatory officer. This is why it takes 3 signatures to put a man in prison. Because you have to sign, or whoever you gave your power of attorney to has to sign, because it's all about the trust matter before the court. Everything is a trust matter before the court. They can't even operate in commerce. They can't create a bond. The bank can do nothing with your name on it without your signature. Nothing. You are the government. Every constitution tells you so. Yes, it is. Your life. The fact you were born. It's right here. It's the very first document, your birth certificate. That's what it's based on. The government owns nothing. Oh, yes, you did. Oh, no. You better learn that one. That's part of the problem. That's part of the reason you probably don't have your estate yet. The United States government, listen to what I'm about to say real close. The United States government only exists in commerce to operate the affairs of the trust, of the public charitable trust, for the behalf of the beneficiaries. That's it. And who created the trust? God did. Do you know the trust was created long before the United States? Long before the United States Corporation. That's why the Vatican held all the trusts, because they held all the souls. Without the Unum Sanctum, they couldn't even hold the trust. They couldn't even create a corporation. They had to claim the soul. So all you have to do is claim your soul back. That's it. And then it's yours. You got to claim the property. The property originated with God, given it as a gift to your parents. It's called conception, which is birth. And that was given to you by God. You're missing the point. Only because you don't claim it, then it's their property. They created a false fictional title until you claimed it. You know what he did? He's claimed it without claiming it. He's done the preliminary paperwork of the application, and now he's just got to go make the claim, and then this bond exists. And it's based upon the gold and silver of King Solomon. Do you understand that? Governments can't exist. Look at the Law of Nations by Vattel. Nations cannot exist without trust. Period. What is, hold on. All right, hold on. Well, let's listen to this real close. This man just asked, where does he go to claim it? Look, there's reasons why I don't do this in a class 1. Okay? You ain't ready. I don't even want you to leave here thinking, ooh, this is exciting. I'm ready for it. People call me if they're ready. Usually it's out of greed or desperation. They're in debt so bad, they're having so many problems, they're desperate. I ain't going to teach them how to claim their trust if they're desperate or they're greedy. Period. You can't. Understand that. To move from the decedent to the creditor requires some effort. How about proof that you're even alive? Are you? Have you taken dominion? Have you proved that you're alive? Do you know how to operate? Do you know that the trust is a partnership? Do you know how a trust works? Do you know the government's part of the partnership? Do you know it's you and the probate judge as partners? He's representing the corporation, the United States, that is the bank that's holding, that issued the bond, is holding the bond funds for the benefit of the beneficiary. And he's been managing it his whole time, your whole life, and he's tired of it. He wants you to claim it. Take some of the damn responsibility. Start being the signatory. Because up to now, you've just been signing applications. It's not the licenses that get you in trouble. It's not the driver's license that gets you in trouble. It's the driver's license application that got you in trouble. not the passport that gets you in trouble. It's the passport application that got you in trouble. It's not the birth certificate that gets you in trouble. It was the application your mom signed that started the trouble. Or did it? It did if you're uneducated. It's trouble. If you're educated, it was a wonderful thing for mama to do. Okay, but if you're not, it's trouble. The marriage license. It's not the marriage license that gets you in trouble. It's the marriage license application that got you in trouble. On and on and on. It's not the credit card that got you in trouble. It's the credit card application you sign with its terrible terms and conditions as a debtor. What about a mortgage? Do you know what a morgue is? It's a place dead people go. A mortgage is a death pledge. Why get a mortgage? Why get a mortgage and sign a mortgage application with a promise to repay under terrible terms and conditions and interest rates and usury charges? Why do that? Why not just go sign your name on a promissory note, walk into the credit side of the bank, give them 10 points for their profits, buy the house, have them trade on it, give it back to you in 90 days so that you can sign the authorization, send it to the Treasury. The Treasury reimbursed the bank. They've traded on it for 90 days. They made a profit. You gave them 10 points, and your house is paid off in full. And you don't have monthly payments because all the monthly payment is the house was paid off in full anyway. The day one, as soon as the 72-hour right of rescission and they closed, the house was paid in full. And you're paying them 30 years of management fees. They already took the money out of your account. You know how I know that? Because it's illegal for a bank to take money out of their customers' accounts. Well, up until Biden, he signed an executive order allowing them to do that if they should get in trouble. And now you can run a risk of losing all your money at the bank, where before it was all FDIC insured. Now if you look at your new Wells Fargo disclosures, it says it's not an investment account, it's not FDIC insured, it's not. And you run a risk of losing your investment. And that's just on your checking account. So don't keep any more money in the bank than you can afford to gamble with. Because they could take it tomorrow. And they just might. See, you can operate as a creditor, you can operate as a debtor. And the only difference is how you operate. And everybody's been trained to operate as a debtor, not as a creditor. There's a big difference. You know why it's called a credit report? Experian and TransUnion and Equifax have a credit report and it's scored. Do you know why it's called a credit report? Because it's a list of companies you lent money to. And they gave you a debt note in exchange, called the Federal Reserve notes. They might have gave you a stack of them. But it's a credit report. It's not a debit report. Do you make deposits in the bank or do you make deposits in the bank? Come on, guys, learn the language. I'm not trying to be hard on you. I'm trying to teach you. Most people take a deposit slip, fill it out, give them some debt notes, and send it in. And it's a deposit. They're taught to operate that's money. But the symbol of fiat currency is that. The symbol of real money is that. It's a keystroke on their computer. Control 6. You see, no, don't write that down. Don't write Control 6. I could be wrong. Look it up for yourself. It's a keystroke. I'm telling you, that's it. Yeah. 12, 4, 11. Title 12, Section 411. United States Code. Look, it's nobody in here's fault. Not one person was taught in kindergarten through 12th grade how to act as a creditor. We were never taught that every piece of paper has a debit and a credit side to it. We were never taught the 3 jurisdictions of law. There's so many things we were never taught. Yet we went through 13 years of school and nobody learned any damn thing that was correct. Hardly at all. It drives me crazy.
If we're not ready now, what's the road to get us ready? This is seminar 1. We have 2, 3, 4.
I used to do that all the time. I don't have time to do that anymore. I can either go out and I can wake the people up and they can learn to study for themselves. They can follow the Telegram channels. We have so many tools available to us now. Remember when I did it? I had to read books. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have internet. My first cell phone was an Alpine in a car bag that you had to plug into a cigarette lighter. Shut up, I'm old. There was no internet. There was no instant search and, oh, there's the answer. I had to sometimes go to Washington, D.C. and sit down in the National Archives to learn this stuff. I had to order books. Bonnie was telling me that the last jail she was at had a law library. She goes, David, you'll never believe it. It's 4 shelves of books. That's their law library. She goes, it's about 1/1000th of what we have in our office. And I've read all those books in our office. Tony's been in our office. How many books are in there in those boxes? We got whole entire rooms full of books in boxes stacked this high. I had to get it all out of that. You don't know how lucky you guys are. I didn't have somebody like me up here that knew any of that crap. You guys got all the advantages in the world right now and you don't know it. There is so much information that you can be taught. It's all verifiable. You can buy it. I paid more than $100 for some of those law books. I paid more than $200 for some of those law books. In fact, I paid $50,000 for one set of law books.
You're saying everything is inside that mic?
No. It'd be about that thick. But I'm telling you, there's enough in there to go teach everybody with and get going, get started, go take care of your families, teach your children, teach your brothers and sisters, your siblings, your aunts and uncles and cousins, and all your neighbors, get them going. There's 337 million people in this country dying quickly. Adult sudden death syndrome? Are you kidding me? That's a thing. Look at the actuarial tables, how fast they're going. Talk to the corners and the flower shops. They'll tell you how fast people are dying right now. Okay? What we need to do is protect each other, protect ourselves, protect each other, protect our communities, our close-knit people, the people that think like we think, and find a way to survive everything that's coming. Because the Bar Association and the bankers know it is over for them. And now, because of this conversation, I'm going to tell you something I wasn't going to tell you. But the military is in almost every city in America right now, and it's happening right now as we speak. Ospreys have landed in Sacramento downtown. Almost every big city in America, the military's there. And everything started to happen today. Okay? And I wasn't going to bring that up at all. Nope. Okay, I started with this. Title 18, it almost seems like it doesn't matter right this minute. Title 18, Section 241 and 242 is incredibly important to understand because we can use it against them. And if you put Title 42, 241 and 242, that's the civil side. See, people got to know the United States Code. All right, who's playing with their keys? You said, yeah. All right. Okay. Title 8 of the United States Code is what? Statuses and definitions and things like that. Title 18 is what? Criminal. Title 26 is what? The IRS code. Okay. Title 42 is what? Civil. Title 26, very important. Yeah, IRS. On and on and on. We need to know our United States Code because it is our tool in our tool belt. We need to have tools in our tool belt. I always have a few. You know, tools in our tool belt. And that protects us. One of the things I did when Bill Barr was in office is I went to him and I said, I'd like you to do me a favor. In a PDF format that anyone can download off your website, on your Department of Justice letterhead, I would like you to put some of the titles that people need to know to hold public servants accountable. And I would like you to put the title at the bottom of the page and a summary by the Department of Justice at the top of the page in easy to understand language for the people. And make it a PDF file and make it available on your website. And he did it. Really cool. Summary. Section 242 of Title 18 makes it a crime for a person acting under color of any law. What is something that's colorable? A fallacy. Color of law is fallacy law. What is fallacy law? Rules, codes, statutes, and ordinances and executive orders are actually fallacy law. They're not law. They're non-positive law. They're laws that have not been enacted into law. Statutes haven't been enacted into law.
So in the city I live in says you got to wear a badge. That's an ordinance.
That's a mandate. Where's the word mandate come out of? Comes out of the Mason's Manual. What is the, I had this up on the board earlier several times now, at least twice. The legislative, the judicial, and the administrative branch, which is now the ex-administrative branch, executive branch, ex-administrative branch, right? That's what happens when you have an ex. Oh God, I just forgot where I was going. Ooh. Yeah. A mandate, an ordinance, a rule, a code, a statute. All those are not law. The Supreme Court court tells you that in multiple cases that they're not law. They're policy, essentially. And they're for employees of the corporation to follow, and you volunteer to be an employee by your own consent of the governed. And that's how governments operate. It's literally that simple. Okay, I'm about to tell you that. Thank you. That was perfect. Good timing. I needed you right there at that moment. You came through. All right. What book does the legislative branch of government operate under? Every February they come out and they're available for sale for a lot of money. What book do they operate under? You can buy them on Amazon. The 2023 Mason's Manual for Legislative Procedures. That is what our legislator operates on. The 2023 Legislative Manual for Procedure. What does the judicial branch operate on? The 2023 Mason's Manual for Judicial Procedure. Now they have laws to go by too, called canon laws, jurisprudence, on and on and on. But this is their policy that they operate under. What does the executive branch operate under? The 2023 Mason's Manual for Administrative and Executive Procedures. Once you figure that out, and when you figure out at least 95% of your police departments are Masons, and all of your attorneys are, and most of your judges, they all are. A lot of your county commissioners, your city managers, your mayors, your governors, they're all Masons. Once you understand how the Masons work, that there's 34 degrees down to 1, and now they're starting people at level 3 usually, and there's 34 degrees, and then right here there's Illuminati, and there's 27 degrees, and right here there's a council of 12 called Metatron, Cube, and then there's a council of 8, and that's the order of the world control right there. And these guys down here, they don't know much about anything about what's going on. These guys in here know very little. These guys are all your order followers, your patrol deputies, and guys that obey the orders of these guys, who 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 obey the orders of these guys. You kind of know you're over the target when a message is passed to you. And it's from these guys down here, passed up to these guys right here. And these guys right here make sure one of your people pass it on to you so you get the message. And you know it's even more important when they put something that you plaster all over, like the civil flag of peace on the message. And this is coming from Metatron's Cube 12. And it's from his people saying, "Sir, we blasted every satellite beam at him, hit him with every psyop in the book, isolated him and left him adrift in an insane world." Isolated him from his wife. Yet he continues to get up every day, and with a smile on his face, he persists in relative serenity. "I cannot explain it. I hate him for it, but I'm afraid this man may be unbreakable." It's the best comment I ever had. And they sent that over to Ann Vandersteel on April 21st, after Bonnie had been arrested, the day after my birthday, and they sent it over to her to pass on to me that evening. Okay. I think it's the best comment I've ever got in my life. Because I'm going to fight until the end, or unless they kill me, one or the other. And I want you to know that. And I'm fighting for all of us. So. It's important to understand this stuff. Because that is the cabal that controls the world right there. That's right. Doesn't. Never has. Oh, wait a minute. You see, this is why you have to learn who you are and learn who they are. Right. I get it. But this is why you have to learn who you are and who they are. Are we men and women? Are we sons and daughters of God? Are we kings of kings? Hold on just a quick second. Who am I? You have to look into yourself and ask who you are. Or are you that person, citizen, resident? Citizen, person, and resident. Citizen, person, resident. If you're dead, you need CPR and revived. I'm telling you, you are considered a legally dead entity as a U.S. citizen, a person, and a resident. You are considered a decedent of all your bank accounts. You look in the fine print on your bank accounts, it'll say decedent's account. Go ahead. And then I'm going to get you. Sure. Sure. Well, to be the creditor, right? It's a little bit different agreement. Go ahead. Well, that's right. That's right. That's right. You got to start acting as a king. Maxims of law are important. What is the maximum of law? It's something that's been so well decided that it can't be reexamined. That's essentially what it is. Something so well decided it can't be reexamined. Maxims of law have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. No. Not if you're looking for a private account. That's only for the decedents, the dead people. They got to have a number. Look, what you're doing is when you say go into the bank, describe the building for me real quick. The building. Just what's the building look like? It's got some drive-throughs. It's brick and mortar. It's got a little ATM that you go to and a little lobby you walk into up to some tellers, right? That's for the dead people. What about the big skyscraper downtown Dallas that says Wells Fargo at the top, or Chase, or they don't have any ATM machines at that building, do they? These little branches, that's where the dead people go. Now, you can use them for convenience once you've already done this. But the private bankers, guys with net worth over $10 million, the private bankers like to hit them up, right? Any NFL players in here? Because they all have private banking accounts. Why? Because they were prospected to put their money there. They got a lot of money. So they put them in private banking accounts. The private bankers manage their accounts, right? But did you know those same private bankers also manage accounts like mine? We walk in with different papers. We don't go in there and say, can I have an application? Do you know what the word application means? It means to apply, which means to beg. To beg for something to be applied. Right? What's a promissory note? Promissory note's money. It just says, I don't have it on me, it's sitting over there, go get it. It's got the account numbers on it and everything, and your signature. And you make it out for what you want to make it out for. Now, if you're buying a $500,000 house and your promissory note's for $500,000, the bank doesn't want to do the labor because you haven't followed a maximum law that every man is worthy of his hire. So what do you make it out for? I'll make it out for $600,000. They get to keep $100,000. He probably splits out with the banking commissions. He gets $50,000 for me walking in the door for 5 minutes and doing a little bit of paperwork for me. They kind of like that. Because I recognized the man was worthy of his hire to do it for me. So I credited it to him with what? Authorization. My signature off my account. We have to start thinking as creditors. And that's going to take a while for you new people to figure out. Because you don't even know the language. I could be up here speaking Russian or something. It's a different language, different words. Okay? Lawyers call it legalese. The different words they use determines the juris they're under at the time. Okay. All right. Time's again.
We got about 10 more minutes, David.
Okay. Man, I got a lot of book to go through. 16 of them. Not all of them. Okay, I want to jump really quick. How many minutes? Okay, I'm going to do this.
About 10 minutes. It'll be 6 o'clock.
All right, I'm going to do this first. For you new people, this is something you got to know. It is the single biggest way the state has a hold on you if you're an adult. This is called an enlightening conversation with the Marriage Bureau. Okay? So important to hear more than once, too. About 20 years ago, my former wife filed for divorce. We had 7 children, 5 daughters and 2 sons. Our youngest at the time, our second son, was 5 years old. At the time, I prepared a counterclaim to the petition for dissolution her attorney filed in domestic relations court. I met one afternoon with the head of the Maricopa County Superior Court Marriage License Bureau in downtown Phoenix. The Marriage License Bureau was headed by a young woman of about the age of 25. I asked her to explain to me the general and statutory implications of the marriage license. She was very cooperative and called over an assistant, a tall man who at the time was working on an operations manual for internal departmental use. He was a lawyer. She deferred for most technical explanations to her assistant. He walked through the technicalities of the marriage license as it operates in Arizona. He mentioned that marriage licensing is pretty much the same in most of the other states, but there are a few differences. One difference he mentioned was that Arizona was one of 8 western states that are community property states. The other states are common law states, with the exception of Louisiana, which is a Napoleonic Code state. He then explained some of the technicalities of the marriage license. He said, first of all, the marriage license is a secular contract between the parties and the state. The state is the principal party in the contract. The husband and wife are secondary or inferior parties. The secular contract is a 3-way contract between the state as the principal and the husband and wife as the other 2 legs of the contract. He said in the traditional sense of marriage is a covenant between the husband and wife and God. But in the secular contract with the state, reference to God is on a dotted line and not officially considered included in the contract at all. State creates joinder with the husband and enjoins with the wife, and God is on a dashed line at the bottom, a dotted line. This is the blueprint of a marriage, state marriage with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. That's the blueprint. Okay. He said the husband and wife, if the husband and wife wish to include God as a party in their marriage, that because it's on a dotted line, they will have to add it in their own minds. The state's marriage license is strictly secular. He said further that what he meant by the relationship to God being on a dotted line meant that the state regards any mention of God as irrelevant, even meaningless in his description of the marriage license contract. He said in the traditional religious context, marriage was a covenant between the husband and wife and God, with the husband and wife joined as one. That would be the blueprint for a God marriage. It's that simple. One line, joined together. Husband and wife and God, all joined together. He further mentioned that this religious overtone is recognized by the state by requiring that the marriage must be solemnized by a state official or by a minister of religion that has been deputized by the state to perform the marriage ceremony and make a return of the signed and executed marriage license back to the state. Again, he emphasized that marriage is strictly a secular relationship so far as the state is concerned, and because it is looked upon as a privileged business enterprise, various tax advantages and other political privileges have become attached to the marriage license contract that have nothing at all to do with a marriage as a religious covenant or a bond between God and a man and a woman. In civil law, the marriage is considered to be a for-profit venture or a profit-making venture, even though it may never actually produce a profit while in operation. And as the wife goes out to the local market to produce and purchase foodstuffs and other supplies for the marriage household, she is merely replenishing the stocks of the business. In civil law, the marriage is considered to be a business venture and a for-profit business venture, and as children come into the marriage household, the business venture is considered to have borne fruit. He went on to explain that every contract must have consideration. The state offers consideration in the form of the license itself, the piece of paper, the certificate of marriage. The other part of consideration by the state is the privilege to be regulated by statute. The privilege to be regulated by statute. He added that this privilege to be regulated by statute includes all related statutes in all court cases as they are ruled on by the courts, and all statutes or regulations into the future in the years following the commencement of the marriage. He said, in a way, the marriage license contract is a dynamic or flexible, ever-changing contract as time goes along, even though the husband and wife do not realize it. A contract must be entered into knowingly, intelligently, intentionally, and with fully informed consent. Technically, there is no contract with the state. Understand that, because there was no full and honest disclosure of the terms and conditions. Another way to look at the marriage license contract with the state is as a contract of adhesion, a contract of volunteerism, of gift. You voluntarily walked into their office. You voluntarily filled out the forms. You voluntarily paid the fee. You voluntarily gave them your tacit agreement. See? That's why those I do not consent t-shirts are so cool. Right? Such a contract with the state is said to be a specific performance contract as the privileges and duties and responsibilities that attach. Consideration on the part of the husband and wife is the fee paid, and the implied agreement to be subject to the state statutes, rules, and regulations, and all court cases ruled on related to marriage law, family law, children, and property. Property, foreclosure, every foreclosure, if you've ever been married and you have a contract with the state rules on it. He emphasized that this contractual consideration by the bride and groom places them in a definite and defined by law position, inferior and subject to the state. He said very few people realize this. He also said that it is very important to understand that children born into the marriage are considered by law as a contract bearing fruit, meaning the children primarily belong to the state. In this regard, children born to the contract regarded as a contract bearing fruit, that it is vitally important for parents to understand two doctrines that became established in the United States during the 1930s. The first is the doctrine of parens patriae. The second is the doctrine of in loco parentis. Parens patriae means the state is the parent. The state is the undisclosed true parent. Along this line, a 1930s Arizona Supreme Court case states that parents have no property right in their children and have custody of their children during good behavior at the sufferance of the state. Now, I don't know about you, but that kind of pissed me off. This means that parents may raise their children and maintain custody of their children as long as they don't offend the state. But if they in some manner displease the state can step in at any time and exercise its superior status and take custody and control of its children. The parents are only considered conditional caretakers. That's the doctrine of in loco parentis. He also added a few more technical details. The marriage license is an ongoing contractual relationship with the state. Technically, the marriage license is a business license, allowing the husband and wife in the name of the marriage to enter into contracts with third parties and contract for things such as mortgages and debts. They can get car loans, home mortgages, and installment debts in the name of the marriage because it's not only a secular enterprise, but is looked upon by the state as a privileged business enterprise, as well as a for-profit business enterprise. The marriage contract acquires property throughout its existence and over time is hoped to increase in value. This goes to the legal term limited conditional title or lease, the right to make a profit or incur a loss. The marriage contract bears fruit by adding children. If sometime later the marriage fails and a divorce results, the contract continues in its existence. The divorce is merely a contractual dissolution or amendment of the terms and conditions of the contract. Jurisdiction of the state over the marriage, over the husband and wife, now separated, continues over all aspects of the marriage, over marital property, over children brought into the marriage, over spousal support, child support, visitation, education, health care, etc., etc. The state has a say in it forever. That is why family law and the domestic relations court calls divorce a dissolution of the marriage, because the contract continues in operation, but in an amended or modified form. He also pointed out that the marriage license contract is the strongest, most binding contractual relationship the state has upon its people. At the end of our hour-long meeting, I somewhat humorously asked if other people had come in and asked the same questions that I was asking. The assistant replied that in the many years he had worked there, he was not aware of anyone else asking these questions. He added that he was very glad to see someone interested in the legal implications of the marriage license and the contractual relationship it creates with the state. His boss, the young woman marriage bureau department head, stated, "You have to understand that people who come in here to get a marriage license are in heat. The last thing they want to know is technical, legal, and statutory implications of the marriage license." Anyhow, oops. Yeah, they did. It's still stuck on me? Well, that's where I needed to put it.
Okay, so how much more are you going to talk about? Because it's past your time.
Well, if it's past our time, I'll see you tomorrow.
All righty then.